The World Healing Tour movement with your host, Noah Crane. Heal yourself, heal the world. Hello. Welcome to the World Healing Tour podcast, where our mission is to help you heal yourself so you can heal the world. Hi, my name is Noah Crane. Each week, we will bring you tips and tools and inspire you to live your most empowered and joyful life. I'm also the author of the book, The Grass is Greenest Where I Am, because the grass is greenest where you are when you nurture your own gifts in your own life. When you choose to live in a place with no comparison, no competition, and no scarcity. When you choose to live in your own love and light and share your unique gifts with the world, because each of us is unique and we all came here to make this world better. That's why it's called World Healing Tour, because truly, when we heal ourselves, we can inspire others to heal themselves and make this world a better place for all. My guest today exemplifies just that, so I'm so excited to have him today. Matt Williams is the founder of Pro Snack Bar and a coach at Next Level Recovery Associates in Boca Raton, Florida. Pro was founded by a simple belief that being a part of a community of like-minded individuals dedicated to improving their lives and the lives of others makes each of us stronger than we can ever be alone. Matt Williams, welcome to the World Healing Tour podcast.
Thank you for having me. That was quite the intro. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate you. And, I've been looking forward to our podcast and learning more about you and your journey because I know you've been through so much. So let's start a little bit at the beginning of, because I know that we have a long way to go, but for people to get to know about your childhood, like what was it being brought up? What are some of the challenges you had growing up?
Yeah. Again, thank you for having me on the show. I loved your intro too. I actually want to read that book because that's one of the things that I always struggled with and still do struggle with, which is always trying to look out and comparing. And am I doing enough? Am I not present where I need to be and focusing on that? So that's great. But as far as for me, my childhood is amazing. Two amazing parents. I have two older brothers. Grew up in New York, right outside the city. Very small town, very small school. Everybody kind of knew everybody. And I really have nothing to complain about. Like, my childhood was amazing. My parents are awesome. My brothers are awesome. I had a great host of friends and participated in a lot of different things, whether it was music or sports or anything like that. But, along the lines, you get a little bit older and you start doing some things that, you experiment with, substances and drugs and alcohol, which is a huge part of my story. And I think, what we'll touch on today, I'm sure, which is, where that started and where it went to. And, to make it really brief, it was a lot of fun until it wasn't. And there were a lot of things and places and people, that I visited or heard along the way that, is part of my story and, constantly living as kind of what you shared in your intro, which is living by comparison or comparing myself to my older brothers or to other people that, I was growing up with that I thought were, better than me, smarter than me, better at anything was a comparison for me. And I wasn't raised that way, I came from a loving family that encouraged me to do anything I wanted.
I love that so much. I love that you had that strong foundation because that really stayed with you, I'm sure, and brought you through all the challenges that you've been through. So having that, foundation of that loving family and that love that you grew up with is just so important, and you're so blessed to have had that in your life.
Yeah.
So I know that life does take you in different directions, right? We do get to places where we compare, compete. Maybe our self-confidence is not where it should be. We're always thinking, and again, the grass is greener somewhere else, and it's not, right? And so we get to a place sometimes where we self-sabotage in our life. So let's talk about self-sabotage and how that affected you in your life, and when did that start?
Yeah, I think it started from a young age for me. It was, getting to the point of where you're doing all these different things. I wasn't like extremely successful, and again, I'm using my own measurement and metric, but like I didn't feel like I was successful enough in certain areas. I could do a bunch of different things, like a jack of all trades. I could kind of be that chameleon of blending in with certain different people and groups, and I kind of learned that. It's like, whoever I hung out with, I became, right? And I never really had my own identity, or I had my own, understanding of who I was. which is a challenging thing, I think, for anybody at any age. But for me, it was, hang around let's just use like, movie terms, hang around the jocks, play sports, hang around, the band geeks and the people in jazz band. And I did that. And, I kind of just navigated through different friend groups, and I never really wanted people to get to know who I really was, and, to kind of help me acclimate to certain areas. Alcohol was a big, like, call it like social lubricant, right? Where I could feel okay wherever I was, and I could, smoke, again, I don't want to throw anyone off here, but like, smoke weed, and those are the things I think that every kid goes through, right? Where they experiment with certain drugs and alcohol, and they're with their friends. And for me, it just became that, chasing that elusive feeling of like feeling good. I wanted to feel good all the time.
And would you say feeling good? Because I call it also chasing pleasure.
Sure.
We're
100%.
we're chasing pleasure and avoiding pain.
Yeah.
Because it feels better we want to feel good. And
Yep.
so by doing that, we also let go of responsibilities and let go of things that are really important, and even our own success gets, by the wayside until we're ready to step into that, because, pleasure will never take you to a successful life. But when we work on our own success, it will take us to pleasure. I always say that.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I think, I think for me, it was, it's a good way of putting it, chasing pleasure. Like, I love the things I was doing. I love my friends. I love my family. And none of that really got in the way until it did, right? And until, like, I was chasing that feeling that, slowly things that I had worked hard for, I studied hard for, I got degrees in, and, pursued in my career, it fell by the wayside. And it became about, what do I need to get to feel okay, to do whatever the next thing was. And I worked really hard. I always thought if I worked really hard, I paid my bills, you really couldn't say anything to me. And that was a really poor attitude. Again, nothing that I did was a reflection of how I was raised.
So you had an emptiness inside. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
You had a void inside.
Huge void, and huge misunderstanding of what I wanted to do. And I was doing things that I thought I was supposed to be doing, and I did enjoy them. Like, I love being a teacher. I love being a coach. And, when it came down to the tail end of everything kind of crashing, everything crashed in, 2010, in May of 2010, where
let's talk about that.
I experienced, I learned when I finally got sober that I drank out of resentment. I drank at somebody because I didn't get the recognition that I thought I deserved. So a lot of entitlement, a lot of ego, and that reared its ugly head. And I ended up getting into an accident. Fortunately, no one was hurt, and found myself in a situation in a local jail and in this area. And it was the first time I had kind of come to, and I share about this when I share my story, or I've spoken on a podcast, or I've shared it with somebody else that's struggling, that may need to hear from me, where it was like I was kind of coming out of my stupor, right, where my eyes were closed, and I was really hoping I wasn't where I thought I was. And I was in Gun Club in Palm Beach, and kind of came to. I looked around. I'm in an orange jumpsuit, and I sat up. I'm on a cot, dried snot, tears, and just a mess, and reeked of alcohol. And I was just like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I just don't want to feel this way anymore, and I'm an alcoholic. And it was the first time I could ever say it. It was the first time the pain had been great enough, and the void was so massive that I was able to be honest. And there was no one there, and it was just me. And I don't remember it being the best feeling, but it was great to say it because of my circumstances. They weren't favorable. Sitting in a general population in a prison is not the place you want to have a life realization, But everything kind of changed from there. I was given some opportunity to correct my life, and that's when I really started relying heavily on other people, and calling people and telling them that I was finally ready, and I needed help, and I was an alcoholic and an addict, and I admitted that I didn't know what I was doing, and I hadn't known what I was doing for a long time, which was incredible, because it's like when you feel like you're supposed to know everything and have all the answers, and you can finally say, I don't know. And
it's kind of surrender.
Right. And say to somebody like, hey, I need help. I don't know what help I need, but I need help, and hopefully you can help me. And it was just, it was a relief.
So I love that you had that realization in jail because I feel like sometimes you have to fall that low to really wake up. And
Yeah.
like you said, there was a lot of entitlement. Can you talk a little bit about what the entitlement was that you think when you talk about entitlement?
Yeah, for
Did you
me,
grow up in Boca Raton?
no, I grew up
Okay.
in New York, but similar kind of socioeconomic breakdown of like where I grew up. I grew up right outside of the city in a nice suburb, and it's very similar to
Boca.
the level of Boca. But I think it came down to I worked really hard. I went to grad school. I got degrees. I worked this job. I mentored here. I did this and I did all these things, which I thought entitled me to do whatever I wanted, no matter what the cost and who I hurt. And I didn't think like that at the time until I got sober, and it was more or less explained to me how I was behaving and working with people that are professionals, and finally getting professional help, and meeting other people like me that were or had struggled with alcohol and drugs, and it helped me continue the honesty tour. You call it, like it allowed me to hear other people and truly listen, take their suggestions, and start to clean up my mess. And there was years of it, and I think when you said like that bottom, like I think most people need to hit some form of bottom. For me, it was emotional, financial, spiritual. Everything had to be broken for me to finally ask for help, and it's different for everybody.
Right.
Sometimes it's the loss of let's say the loss of your family, or the loss of a job, or a loss of or an accident. Hopefully not that, but it takes whatever it takes for people to finally
Awaken.
and say, wow, I need some help.
Yeah. And I can't do this alone.
Yeah, and I think people fight that alone. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why.
It sounds like a lot of ego.
Yeah,
There's a
100%.
lot of ego, like,
yes. Yeah.
I can rely on myself. I don't need anybody.
Yeah, and
know.
and it never was, like I wasn't raised that way. It was ask for help. Like, we're here. You have this. You have this. You have that. You have access to all these things. And I think at some point you want to try to prove to yourself, or you want to prove to others that you got this, and you can handle it. And when it comes to the case of alcoholism and addiction, you can't do it alone. Just it's not possible.
Yeah.
At least in my experience, being a sober man, almost 14 years and change, I haven't seen anyone successfully get sober by themselves.
I think healing does take others. And that's why, I always say together we are one, WON, because, we win together, and we need each other in this lifetime. And the more we realize how much we need each other, the faster we can create a positive change and a positive impact in this world. I was wondering about what you said about the resentment that you had inside, that through your healing, you found out that a lot of stuff came from that resentment you had inside. What could you talk a little bit about what resentment that was?
Yeah,
or what
I mean,
it was for you?
Yeah, primarily it was resentment against myself for knowing what, eventually you get to a point where you're not ready to admit it yet, but like what you're doing is wrong, and that there are other ways to do it. Again, I didn't have an alternative way, and I think I was resentful at myself for how my life had turned up based on my decisions, and based on the consequences I had received for certain decisions. And, constantly looking at others that were like, oh, if I had that, then, I wouldn't be this way, or if I had this opportunity, and just very ungrateful, very selfish, very self-centered, and me. And again, not the way I was raised. It's just once you cross a line, in my journey, in my experiences, once you cross a line where you can't figure out how you or when you crossed it, it's really hard to go back without the help of other people, and people that know where you're at, have been through what you're going through, and can give you some suggestions. And you're free to take the suggestions or not. And hopefully you're in a place to take those suggestions. And I finally was ready to take those suggestions. So I learned more about resentment. I learned more about my ego. I did some extra, I go to a fellowship that, they're called, go to meetings and things like that. But I needed a little extracurricular help. I went into a rehabilitation or treatment program, whatever you want to call it, in the summer of 2010. And I worked on a lot of things that I didn't want to look at for years. I worked on, my dad died when I was really, when I was young and in the middle of my addiction. I lost some friends, like just by chance, like random car accidents or like people that died that were such good people. And I was like, why are they gone and I'm not?
So guilt
A lot
too.
of guilt, a lot
Guilt
of
and
shame,
shame. Yeah,
embarrassment,
that's what I hear a lot.
any of that stuff. It just drove me. Like, I held it together when my father passed away for the family. And the minute everything had been done and the service and the family had come and gone, I went right back to trying to numb that out because I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to look at it. I was like, this was heavy. This was a lot. And rather than ask for help and seek guidance or seek counsel, it was, I'll figure this out, but let me get drunk first.
Yeah. Numb the pain first.
Yeah.
And it seems like you were saying when we were talking about resentment that those things were just creating the blockages for you to be able to ask for help, because you were, kind of closing yourself off every time, by numbing it, and all those
Just build another
emotions were just creating those layers of, clogging up that
build the wall.
that flow.
The
that
wall
flow
kept getting thicker,
Yeah.
taller and taller, and I didn't want anybody to know what I felt or how I felt, or I didn't want anybody to know, and I didn't let people get close to me. I had dated some women amongst the years that were just absolute saints, and the minute they got too close, I shut down, and then friends got too close or kind of saw the direction I was heading, or saw some of the ugly side of my alcoholism, I would cut them out because I didn't want to hear it.
You didn't want to be told what to do.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of fear around protecting yourself.
That is the number one offender for me, is fear and resentment.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so would you say, okay, I know you've come through so much, and I can't wait to share everything that you're doing in the world today. So this is what it's so cool about the healing. But how important has healing been to you being able to create what you have created today?
I mean, obviously, this being the World Healing Tour, I love that. I think healing is extremely important, and it's important in a lot of different ways, and it takes time. And I hated hearing this when I got sober, was time takes time. Not everything's going to get better right away. Some things might never get better, whether it's a relationship with someone that you hurt or, something internally. And I remember, probably about a year and a half, 2 years in, I attended this seminar that was like, more or less like a self-help thing, one of the big group gurus that are out there. And I attended one of these seminars, and it was a 5-day intensive seminar. And I had felt good. I was sober a year and change, maybe 2 years. I can't remember. It was maybe a couple years, actually, maybe 3 or 4. And I remember doing one of this process. It was like a healing activity, and I was still so caught up in not being good enough, afraid of success, afraid of failure, afraid of so many things. And I had done a lot of work on myself, and it kind of scared me because, like, I had gone through treatment. I'd been going to my meetings. I had, righted some wrongs. I had started to build my life back together, or put my life together, not back together. I wouldn't want to go back. And I was still very fearful. And I would be lying if I said I still didn't have fears from time to time. Financial insecurities, fear of, success and growing the business further, fear of it working, and I think when you put some trust and faith into something, whatever you want to call it, and I know this might upset some listeners, but it's like if you have a higher power of your understanding, whatever you call it,
Maybe God.
I'm good with that. I just, sometimes.
Yeah, it's whatever resonates with you, but I believe it's God.
Right.
But a higher power is perfect way to put it.
Universe, whatever you have to say.
Yes.
To believe in something greater than yourself, I think is super important. I think, as someone that grew up, in a religious setting and went to church and did all the things that, served in the church and did all the things, I think when you get to a point where you're at a bottom and you have to figure out what that higher power is for you and what you want to call it and what it looks like, what it feels like, it's a game changer. And even still having a connection and praying and meditating and do the things that I was, taught to do, there's still, like I said, there's still fear. There's still challenges. Life comes at you. And it's like, I heard it today. Someone says, you can either get dragged around by reality in life, or you can like let go of the reins and just like let it happen. And I need to be reminded of that. Like your intro today, when you were sharing your intro, I was just like, wow, I'm exactly where I need to be right now to hear Noah share that, because it's something that I struggle with.
Yeah, and I think it's part of being human. I think the
100%.
struggle is always there, and I think the healing never stops, right? We continually have to heal ourselves. There's always a deeper level and another level to take ourselves, to heal ourselves more and to become the better version of ourselves.
Yeah.
So the healing never stops. We all go through traumas and through different things. Being being a human being, there's challenges in itself, you know? So we have to give ourselves grace because
Yeah.
everything
Hard
happens.
thing to do at times, though.
Yeah, hard thing to do, but everything happens when it needs to happen. And we do need those reminders, right? I agree with you. We need those reminders. We can never get, and when we hear it even from somebody else, it makes a difference from us in that moment.
Yeah.
Because we all are, you know, these reminders all keep us strong and keep us moving forward. I feel like I always need reminders as well. So
Absolutely.
thank you for saying that.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a quick commercial break from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Matt Williams. World Healing Tour 2 2024, October 20th, at the Wyndham Hotel in Boca Raton. We are looking for vendors, for sponsors, for speakers. If you want to be a part of this, go to noahcrane.com or click the link below. And we are back with Matt Williams. Such a great conversation about healing and being able to let things go, let resentments go, let fears go, be able to forgive. How important was forgiveness for you, Matt, in your healing journey?
Wow, that question. It's an important thing. It's an important feeling. It's important action. And I think in order to forgive, and this is what I learned, is I have to be, in order to forgive, I have to forgive myself. And that took some time. The position that I was in and the feelings that I felt at the earliest part of my sobriety, I didn't feel like I deserved it. And there's days still that I don't feel like I deserve it, and that, you know, I should be somewhere else, especially when some things happen. And, you know, I walk through some challenging situations with other individuals that are struggling with addiction, or people that I coach that are struggling in life, whether it be their relationships or their businesses. And, you know, it's a challenging thing. And I always think it's like, you know, I say, it's like, I've heard this and you know, the practice of it, it's like, it's really easy to pray and meditate when you wake up and it's 4:15 in the morning and there's no one else up and you're not interacting with another human being. And I have to do that, and I learn how to do that every single day. And then I have to go out and interact with other humans. Mm-hmm. And not everybody is, you know, let's say level-headed or caring or dialed into some form of spirituality or doing the right thing. And it doesn't matter whether you're in South Florida or in the middle of the country, wherever you are, you're going to deal with other people that may have different beliefs than you or different ways of handling things. And I think you have to approach, or I should say, I have to approach things in the spirit of understanding and trying to understand where they're coming from, or the fact that I might not necessarily agree. And I think in today's age, everybody thinks like, if you don't agree with me, you're a terrible person, or I don't have the same views or beliefs that you do. And it always just kind of is like, man, it's like, it's so exhausting to be in that place. And I think that has to deal with a lot of people are in pain, and a lot of people have to learn how to forgive. I still work on that daily, forgive myself, and, you know, even like small things. It's, you know, if I say I'm going to do something, I most assuredly will follow through with it. But then some things slip, or some things, you know, get, you know, something gets miscommunicated, and I'm like, man, and I always feel like I beat myself up. You know, they say, like, in the program, like, put down the bat and pick up the feather. Like, stop beating yourself up. Like, the world,
I like that.
the world's going to beat you up no matter what.
Say it again.
So put down the bat and pick up the feather. And it's like, stop.
That's powerful.
Stop destroying yourself. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, if it's something that you need to do and go take care of and handle, take the action to do it. Don't sit in it. Don't let it continue to gnaw at you and, you know, beat yourself down over it. And it's just like, take it easy, take a breath, relax. You know, it's going to be okay. And anything can be, you know, for more or less, anything can be accomplished or completed. It might not be on the timing that you want it to be. And that's another thing for me, is the patience factor of it. It's like, I'm aware of a lot of things now that I'm sober, and what am I going to do with that awareness? If something needs to take action, am I going to take it, or am I going to let it sit and gnaw at me and chew away. It's like, how many people can relate to having a conversation, you know, in the shower or something, where like, oh, I should have said that, and it was like from something 5 years ago, and you're like, why am I thinking about something 5 years ago? It's like the stuff we hold on, or I should say, the stuff I hold on to, where it's like, well, how is that serving me? How is that giving me any ability to stay in my own green grass, right?
Right.
And there's, you know, they call it future tripping, and you can go into the future and you can be like, oh, I got to do this and blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, you know, people had to remind me when I got hey, where are your feet right now? Just be there. You know, I know that you have stuff to do after this. I know I have stuff to do after this, but it's like, why not just be right here, right now, and focus on what's important?
Enjoy this moment.
Right now. Because, you know, it was told to me, and it's a kind of a sinister saying, but it's like, I could walk out there and cease to exist, and something could happen to me, and this could be my last interaction with another human being on the planet.
God forbid, but yeah.
Right. So it's be where you are.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I hear in a lot in your words, something else that we didn't touch on that much yet is the compassion part of it. You know, extending our compassion to others and extending our compassion to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we are, like you said, we beat ourselves up so much.
Yeah.
And if we could learn not just to forgive ourselves, but also have compassion for ourselves. And then, like you said before, when we're able to do, when you're able to do things for yourself, you're able to give it more to others. Right. And I do believe that's the work. It's the more we can give it to ourselves, the love and compassion, the forgiveness, you know, the letting go. The more we do things within ourselves, the more we can do it outside in the outside world. Because
that's one of the greatest things about like a fellowship or a people, because like in order for me to learn how to do that for myself, I had to watch other people do it and share about it and demonstrate that in their own lives. Like I've heard some incredibly tragic things over the years of what people went through and they didn't drink or use over, and they extended compassion and grace for another human being. And I needed to hear those things to be like, wow, you know, that person went through this and I'm over here worrying and stewing about this. And it's like, how they were compassionate. They practiced grace. They practiced love and tolerance and acceptance of the situation and or the person. I can do that too. And then it's the choice. Do I want to do that, or do I want to create some more chaos? And for the most part, it's like, let's have some patience and grace and compassion for other humans. And unfortunately, there are other times where I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to stir the pot a little bit. And I'm being completely honest. Sometimes it's like, I'm going to stir the pot and see what happens. And then I'm sitting in chaos, and I'm like,
because we self-sabotage.
yeah, I'm like, why
That's
am
part of it.
Why am I doing that? Why did I do that? That was a bad idea. Now I have to go correct the situation, and hopefully, you know, it can be, you know, it can be fixed.
Yeah, we always get in our own way, don't we? We always have to, the biggest job, I say, if every person can just be responsible for how they show up, what a beautiful world it would be, right? We don't have
pretty magical.
Control anybody else, just work on our own stuff, you know, and that's going to change the world. So for me, those words really, you know, everything that we're talking about, it's our own work inside of us. That's where the stability is. It's inside of us. It's not outside of us. And yes, as soon as we go outside, and we're going to get in our own way, because it's just, it's something that, you know, we're mischievous. We like to cut corners. We like to do things, you know. We're not always thinking of what's the end result, or what's going to happen, or what am I going to have to deal. So it's also part of it is being able to look ahead and see and make a good choice, right?
Sure.
You're talking about choices. I mean, everything is choices.
Right. And I think, too, it's like what I had to learn is that you can make a choice, and I'm not talking about making a negative choice going against your gut, but you can make a choice and realize it's not right, and be like, you know what? I made the wrong choice, and now I have to make another choice to either correct that or move in a different direction. And I think that's more change, and I know that terrifies me, and I know that terrifies a lot of other people. So it's like, oh man, I have to make another choice. Well, even though this choice sucks, or I'm in pain over this choice, making another one, what if that one goes wrong? And then that fear kicks in. And that fear, I think, for me is what can hold me back. And I think...
Get you stuck.
Yeah, it gets you stuck.
So I always say fear will freeze you, love will free you. So the fear always gets you stuck.
Yeah. No, I like that. And I think what you said before, it's like if we could all practice certain things with ourselves and with the people that we care about most, and the people that we interact with out in the community, I think would probably be a lot less tense.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah. So I would love for you to share before we go into, what you're doing today, which is
Hmm.
incredible. I want you to share what are some resources that you have for people that are going through addictions or through hard times. What are some tools or some resources that you have gotten over the years that have helped you that you think could help someone else going through a hard time?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think there are a tremendous amount of resources. I think they're more prevalent ever since the whole world shut down, and a lot of people were affected more so than normal. But I think there's a tremendous amount of, you can call them fellowship meetings. I think those places you can tap into a lot of experience, strength, and hope. There are other professional resources out there like treatment centers or rehab programs. I think therapy, counseling, meeting with somebody that you can kind of talk to that's more or less biased and there to help. And there's a lot of free resources out there as well if it's something that you can't afford, because obviously those things are incredibly intense jobs and they're not inexpensive. But I think the whole thing, and I don't want to sound cliche or corny, it's like you ask for help. Ask somebody if you're not well. I recently had a friend who I've known has struggled for a long time. It took years, but finally asked for help, and it brought me back to my beginning, which was still painful because I remember it,
Hmm.
and I was exhausted when I had to kind of assist with the situation. It drained me
Hmm.
because I remembered what it felt like, and it crushed me that this friend of mine was going through it, but knowing he needed to go through it
Hmm.
to have any shot at being okay.
Hmm.
So there's a tremendous amount of resources. Obviously, the internet's really easy to use. There's, if you're socially anxious, there Zoom meetings, and there's other ways, and I believe there's like online therapy now. I know a lot of people do that because they're very anxious about being around big groups of people or meeting somebody new. I'm an in-person person because I like the feeling, whether it's good or bad. I like to feel the energy of people and be around people, whether they're celebrating a success or going through tough times, like feeling it, right?
Hmm.
Because I didn't feel for so long, and if I could provide feedback or I could provide a shared experience or strength or hope, I think that really helps. And sometimes it's just great to sit there and absorb that and process what other people are going through, and I think it gives you some perspective and the ability to learn and hopefully adapt what you hear to your own life. So I think, yeah, again, not to sound cliche, but to ask for help, seek it out. Like if you're like, know that it's okay. Like you don't have to do this by yourself, and you don't have to feel miserable anymore.
Do you think that addiction has a lot to do with the homeless problem today, or do you think it's more also financial? Because I see a lot of homeless people these days, and people sometimes, I'm very compassionate about the homeless people.
Yeah.
I really care, and I wish we could do something to stop the issue of homelessness.
Hmm.
But do you think, like, I don't judge somebody and think, like, oh, what they're going to do with the money I give them? I just
Right.
give them because I want to give them the money. But do you think that you see a lot of homelessness, even in South Florida?
Yeah. Um, I think that has a lot to do, I think, with mental illness and substance abuse
Hmm.
in situations that are socioeconomic, and people like I've known people that have come from great homes that
Hmm.
have ended up on the street, and I think it was a combination of mental illness and addiction, one more than the other. I'm not sure, and I think it's tough. I mean, I've been to some places in the country where you're like, how is this the United States? And I've been outside of the country and seen some of the same things, and it's tragic and it's sad. And I don't know, in the last time you've been to, like last time I was in Philadelphia, I love Philly, I love New York. It just seemed to got more intense, and more, just the struggle became, or maybe my eyes are open to it more. But I remember as a kid going to the city with, with my family and wondering, it's like as a kid, why is that person there? And, you know, my father being like, they, who knows what the reason is, but they're struggling, and you help them if you can. However, and I think it's tough because people don't know. It's like anything else, right? Like how many times, I'm trying to relate this to my own experience. How many times someone said, "Hey, don't get behind the wheel of a car if you're drinking." But if I want to go home, I want to go home. And it's
Yeah.
like until I experienced that and the consequences of it, I couldn't relate to it.
Right.
So I don't think many people can relate to that, unless you've had struggle, and we don't really live in an area where many people struggle in that regard, even though here in South Florida, there are neighborhoods, there are like you see it, and it more so prevalent in Fort Lauderdale from my experience, where
Miami.
Miami, yeah, like under the overpasses, and you're like, I do wonder, I'm like, how did this person get there? And I think everybody gets there in a however differently they do, and I think everyone's situation may be unique to them, but have usually, I would say, usually surrounding something mental illness or substance abuse related, or some tragedy, or some inability to have had access to getting help.
Yeah, and it's just sad.
Yeah.
So I wish we could like help everybody. But part of the we know as part of the healing is we have to also help ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you can help, it's usually, for me, it was like clothing or food, and that's kind of how I was. Like, this is how you can possibly help them, or especially down here, water or whatever, some form of hydration, because I can't imagine it. You step outside today, it's 92 degrees,
Right.
and it's stifling, and it's you don't have access to go in and out of air conditioning, or you might not have access to clean water, or some form of hygiene. I can't imagine.
The things we take for granted every day.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. The creature comforts that we have, and as somebody, I lost the ability, like I lost the ability to drive. I lost my license. I lost all these things that
How long did you lose that for?
5 years.
Wow, that is a long time.
I was able to reapply for it after 3 and change, but the initial sentence of that was a loss of 5 years.
Wow, that's a big impact on your life.
Yes, it was. I don't recommend that to anyone down here, at least in South Florida. The public transportation system is a little bit different than those of larger cities. So,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have Ubers and Lyft, and that's
well,
really the
I
only
kind of
way.
joke about that now. It's like I got sober before those things existed,
Yeah, because
which was great because what did I have to do? I had to ask people for help. I had to ask for rides. I had to ask to be picked up or dropped off, or hey, I need to go to this appointment. Hey, I need to go to this thing. Can you help me? It allowed me to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It lets you open up. So
Yeah.
today it's just so convenient. You just press a button.
Super.
And
Convenience
yeah,
is king.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's killing people's motivation too. Because I mean, they sit there and they just order DoorDash. The teenagers today,
Yeah.
they do everything. They want everything easy. They don't want to work for it.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate the fact that we didn't have those conveniences as much growing up.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, we are going to take another quick commercial break from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. The Grass Grows Where I Am, an incredible anthology book that we are bringing collaborators together. This book is about wisdom, resilience, empowerment, and enlightenment. Do you want to co-author with us? If you do, go to noahcrane.com or click the link below. And we are back with Matt Williams. Great conversation. Matt, so now I wanted to talk a little bit more about what you're doing today and how you've changed your life around, because I know I wanted to go into the healing and what took you there, but you have really come through. And I actually buy your bars, and I love your bars. They're delicious, and you must really love peanut butter.
I do. Yes, I do.
I want to hear the peanut butter story. Where did that love for peanut butter come? But your bars are incredible. How did you come up? So here you are. You went through you had your, your challenges in life, and you came through the addiction and
Hmm.
got your license back. How long from that did you, find your passion and the thing that you really love and the business that you have today?
Yeah. So, full transparency, it wasn't started to become a business. I before I had even gotten my car back, I was biking around and
Hmm.
taking the bus and getting around South Florida. And I needed to pack a bag every day. That included, a bathing suit because, as you know, it rains for 20 minutes in the middle of nowhere, a towel, a change of clothes, and I needed to pack something to eat for myself because I was fortunate enough. A couple of the families that knew me after I had gotten out of the treatment program had given me an opportunity to still tutor and train, and I was in the fitness and coach and all that stuff. And I had just made this little thing and put it in a bag, and I traveled with it. And it was just like ingredients I had at my house. It was peanut butter, protein, and oats at the time, and off I went. And I got to share it with some people, and it, I got to start training at this local gym in Delray Beach, where the guys kind of knew my situation and trusted me and gave me a shot. And they allowed me to bring the bar in one day and share it with people. And funny enough, where we're sitting here in Boca, one of the it's not there anymore. It was this juice place before juice places were huge. And this woman that trained in the gym said, what is that? I want to try it. And I kind of explained to her what it was, and she said, well, I don't eat this, but if you tried this and maybe tweaked it a little bit, this would be more people would be able to eat it. And I said, oh, okay. And, I kind of went home and figured out how to do it. Like, again, I have no money really at the time, and I'm just tinkering around in my kitchen. And I brought it to her, and she's like, wow, these are really good. Can you make me 100? And I was like, um, I don't know how to do that. And she said, well, figure it out and let me know. And I went home and I said, okay, I can make this many at a time. And I made them and wrapped them in little plastic Glad wrap and put a sticker on it and called her. I was like, hey, I have 100. She's like, great. Come by the shop and let's chat. And I went by with 100 and I said, here you go. I had these like paperwork for my friends who were lawyers that like were trying to help me. And she like kind of laughed and said, put that away. I'm just trying to help you. I said, I don't know. She's like, well, I'm going to sell them here. And when I sell them, how much did it cost to make everything? I said, I have no clue. You just told me to do it, so I did it. She said, all right, great. Well, I'm going to sell them for this. And when I sell them, I'm going to pay you this. I said, okay. And I like ran out of there before she changed her mind. And 3 days later, she called me. She's like, hey, that bars are a hit. I'm out. Can you make me another 100? And I was
Wow, that is so
like, I
cool.
literally was like, what? I remember telling my girlfriend, who's now my wife, I was like, hey, they sold them all. And at that time, she was doing her own thing, and she's like, "Oh, cool! Like, make another." I was like, "Make another 100," and I made another 100, dropped them off, and collected what I got paid. And I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And she said, "Oh, you need to meet so and so," and she tried when she was here, and she has a place in Delray. And I was like, "Oh, cool! Let me go meet her." And she's like, "Yeah, no, I love it. Give me 25." And that's how like it started. It was just like little introductions and little um, bags of FroPro to start. And
How
I
did you
was
come up with the name?
so sitting down with one of the a student, but one of the former families that I knew, and um, I was I'd finished training and tutoring the child, and they were like, oh. I said to the mom, I said, oh, she wanted to try this, but like, I don't know if allergies, this has this. And she's like, no, it's fine. And the kid ate it. Like, oh my God, this is so good. And the mom looked at me, she's like, is that healthy? I said, yeah. She goes, my kid doesn't eat healthy stuff.
Mhm.
I said, well, it kind of tastes like dessert. It's like a healthy Reese's peanut butter cup. And she's like, oh, cool. What do you call it? I'm like, I don't call it anything. She's
Mm.
like, what do you mean? I said, I just make these for myself. And I kind of, that's what I have for my snack throughout the day with like fruit or whatever else. And she's like, well, it's good. Like, what would you call it? And I was like, I don't know. It's like frozen protein. Like, I take it, make it, put it in the freezer, cut it, wrap it, frozen FroPro. And she goes, oh, come here. And she was in marketing, and she had a background in things like that. And she's like, give me your credit card. And she didn't know my total situation.
Mhm.
So like giving someone my credit card, I'm like, what is she doing? And she like went on and bought all these websites with my card. And she's like, yeah, I bought all these domain names, and go test your product out.
That's amazing.
And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she goes, oh, yeah. And it took me, that was like 2011. And it took some time, again, introducing to those people and a store here and a store there, and people asking at the gym that I was working at. They were ordering, and I was leaving them in the gym refrigerator for them to pick up. And there'd be a money, like, envelope here. And this is before Venmo and all that stuff. And like, or check here. And again, it was just, I didn't know what I was doing at the time other than sharing something that I loved and that I ate. And I was pretty stoked on the fact that other people liked it. And not everybody liked it. They're like, oh, I can't eat peanut butter. I hate peanut butter. And, oh, chocolate's good. You should make a vanilla. And I'm like, okay. Someone suggested vanilla. So out I went and made vanilla. And then I was like, wow, I can make chocolate and vanilla. And I was like, what other flavors do I like selfishly? I like mint. I'm going to make a mint one. I like coffee. I'm going to put coffee. Let's see how this works. So I started tinkering around and just toying around with different flavors and profiles and things that I enjoyed. And other people liked it. And it slowly became this thing where it just got introduced to other places and stores. And, my girlfriend, who's my wife at the time, she was, running this very successful business in Boca. And, I was writing things down in a notebook. I'm not a sit at a desk type of person. I mean, we're obviously sitting here, but it's tough for me to sit at a desk. I like being out and doing things and moving and shaking and meeting people and doing fun things. So she started to kind of like direct me and help with certain things that I wasn't good at. And, a couple years later, we, had some accounts, and we had gotten introduced at the time to someone reached out that she went to camp with who was in marketing at Whole Foods. She said, what is this FroPro thing I see on Facebook and Instagram? And at the time, Chelsea was like, oh, it's my boyfriend's, kind of thing he does. And she's like, well, we'd love to try it. She's like, I'm at Whole Foods in Fort Lauderdale. It's where the corporate office is. And Chelsea kind of laughed, and I was like, yeah, like, what? What do you mean? And, long story short, we went down there. We pretty much walked in an office of people that made decisions, shared the product. Everybody ate it and liked it and nodded. And, like, people are eating it like, oh, yeah, this is, and then they tell us about the product. And we're talking about the basics of it. And, my wife, being the awesome woman that she is, she's like, listen, guys, like, we can talk about facts and nutrition or whatever, but like, this is more than that. This is my husband's second chance. He literally lost everything, started over, started making this for fun. It's starting to catch on, and other people have supported us. And like, this is his second chance, this is what he's doing, building his life back as a sober man. And that's when the guy who we figured was the main person in charge was like, pointed and was like, that's what I want to hear. And he's like, tell me more. And it was tough, because it was tough at the time. I was very hesitant to share that because it was being vulnerable in a room full of people who I didn't know. But what I found is that when you're open, honest, and transparent, you don't know who you're connecting with or who you're talking to. And for the most part, based on today's numbers, if you're in a room full of people, chances are someone there has been affected, either has firsthand knowledge of addiction, or has worked through it with somebody in their family or close to them. And it was a way to share that and be open and connect to other people. That is kind of what this whole thing turned into. And like, it's like today we have a really cool peanut butter snack bar with a lot of different flavors and a lot of different stores.
Marshmallow.
Toasted marshmallow's great. And we have
birthday cake.
Yeah, we have all these great flavors, and we have all these things that we can share with people. But at the underlying story behind it and how it got started and how we connect with people has probably been my favorite part of it. Is, obviously, to be a successful business, you have to make money and keep it going. But I think the connection piece to that and what it opened the doors to and allowed me to experience and share, and people that I had lost touch with, or other people that were like, hey, I heard you on this podcast, or hey, I saw this, and I'm, people write in like, hey, I'm sober a long time, great job, cool idea, I'm working on this, what do you think? And that collaboration of open, honest, and vulnerable words and feelings, whether it's on our packaging, whether you taste it, whether you can identify with the story, or have someone that you've lost or is currently struggling with addiction, has been my favorite part. And I think
So you're inspiring them.
Well, I think it's why I'm still here, right? Like, business is cool. That's awesome. but it allowed me to get back into speaking with young adults and getting back into the schools because I didn't think I'd ever be able to do that again. It allowed me to connect with other people outside of treatment programs and connect with next level recovery associates and start to, if I'm a fit for someone struggling, working with that person or that young adult, failure to launch, whatever it may be, struggling with alcoholism or addiction. So it's led to a lot of really cool things that I think, you know, say God's plan or the universal timeline, whatever it is. And it's like, I don't know how long I'll be able to get to do it, but I think it has allowed me to do a lot of things had I remained quiet and ashamed and embarrassed and kept the wall up. So the fact that I learned how to do those things in early sobriety and be open and transparent, and it may affect people and it may upset people, and that was my concern for a long time. And then someone was like, it doesn't matter what other people think. If you can help one person, or you can change, or you could heal, or you can, you know, connect, that's what it's about. That's the human experience, and do that as for as long as you can until you're not here anymore.
That's really special. And I love to go into Whole Foods and see your bars all over the place. I mean,
I appreciate
they
that.
carry a lot of your bars there. And I know
They're very
that,
good to us.
yeah, it's wonderful. And it's amazing how, like, you taking the first action, not even knowing what to do, opened that other door, that opened that other door. And it was those little actions that created this amazing business that you have today. The fact that you're in Whole Foods is huge. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a big success for a business to be in such a big place, because I know Whole Foods, I've been a shopper there for years.
Yeah.
And I know there was a transition with Amazon. Did that affect, I know it didn't, you're still there, but I'm sure there was an effect with the change, because a lot of brands and stuff that I used to buy are no longer at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
So the fact that your brand is there shows that you were able to go through the transition as well.
We were very lucky to have survived that. As we got in and we were launched 1 week before the announcement of Amazon.
Wow.
And we were like, well, we're out. We're small. But they had a really good local program, and they believed in local, and they kept that program around. And it's taken us some time. You know, we're starting to launch into other states, which is, you know, I'm excited to announce very soon and what states they will be, and to continue the journey, you
So
know.
right now it's just in Whole Foods
In Florida.
South Florida.
Still in the whole state of Florida.
Okay.
Every Whole Foods in Florida.
Awesome.
But yeah, our website's easy to find it. You can find it on Amazon. You know, we're in about, I want to say we're in like 38 states of different gyms, juice bars, chains, things that.
The gym that I go to has your bars. I go to Tribe.
Yeah,
Fitness,
of course.
They carry your bars. And a lot of times when
good,
I like
good
forget-
ownership over there.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
I love that gym.
Yeah.
By the way, Tribe is awesome. And every time I forget, you know, a protein bar, I need something, a quick snack, they always have it there,
Yeah.
and I always go and get it. I get the peanut butter and jelly one.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
one of my OG
Yeah.
favorites for
yeah,
sure.
that's a really good one. And actually, the first time I was introduced to your bar, I was in Exuma.
Oh,
with
on the retreat.
Marianne.
Yeah.
And Marianne brought some of them as snacks. That
That's-
was years ago.
Where's Camera at? Marianne's the best. We just
Yeah.
got to throw that out there. She is one of my favorite humans on the planet.
Yeah.
Love you, Marianne.
Yeah, she's awesome. She really is
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, it's a great product and a great, you know, snack on the go, and it's healthy and good, and it's organic, right?
Yeah, we're as close to organic as possible. Yeah, that's the one of the biggest challenges is being like, to get that stamp. There are just certain things that are just we're 95% organic.
And Trenti carries you too.
Yeah,
I go
oh,
to Trenti,
Nata.
it's
Yeah,
there.
we got a
Yeah.
big shout out to her.
Yeah, Trenti, not a Trenti.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
wonderful.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, it's great. So
Thank you.
have you thought of expanding into other products, or are you happy just to keep it with the snack bar? Because it is so cute and so so easy to carry around with you, and I mean
Yeah.
it's really niched marketing, right?
Yeah, I think we're really like what I've seen in my experience, and it's still limited, but when you do something really well, try to do it as best you can. And I think where we're at and how we're expanding with our certain top flavors, I have a couple other things in line, nothing crazy, but that takes even more time and more resources that we're still devoting entirely to the expansion of it into other parts of the country. So I think, you know, as that ball continues to roll, there might be some other SKUs or some other things that are coming, but, you know, we're, you know, still dialing in the specifics, and as you grow, changing. We still do everything in-house here in Boca, and I know there's been some issues, and I talk about it freely, like, going to machines and trying to figure out certain things. Sometimes it has, dried out the product and we've gotten the feedback. Sometimes it's been too, it's different. And with change, like, I get it. Like when you eat something all the time, you want it to taste the same.
You want to
and
be consistent.
and that's our biggest thing, is trying to dial it in so we can expand. The way we were doing it allowed us to do it up until where we got. And now we've invested heavily in the infrastructure, and I know that upsets some people, and, I appreciate the feedback and the honesty and the transparency, and we're still doing it in-house. We haven't sold out to a co-packer. No one else is doing it for us. We're still learning. It's part of the process, and we understand we might lose some people along the way, which is not our intention. But we really try to make sure that, our clients are the ones, and our community are the ones that got us to where we are. So we're very aware of, making sure that we focus on delivering the best possible product, and sometimes we can fall short, and I just want to be candid in that. Like, I'm aware of it, and it hurts, and we're trying, and as we continue to grow, and keep everything in-house and keep it family and keep people that are sober, that are starting over, allowing them work there, it's really important to me. So it's a learning process, and, there are aches and pains, and it's part of the deal.
So would you say that everything you've been through has brought you to where you are today? Are you like grateful for all the challenges, all the obstacles, all everything that you've been through to be where you are today?
Yeah, I don't regret. I don't regret one thing. The aches, the pains, the struggles, the jail, the heartache,
The tears.
the tears. I don't regret one thing, because I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't be today without all of that. I wouldn't be here today without my beautiful wife, Chelsea, who is.
Let's talk about Chelsea really
Let's
fast.
let's talk about
Because we
Chelsea.
didn't talk about Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I want to hear, I know Chelsea's a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet, first of all?
I met her on the carpool line of the school I worked at. She was a nanny for one of the kids. She caught my eye. I asked a question of who that was. It got back to her. We went on a couple dates. I blew my life up. I told her to run the other way. She stuck around and weathered the storm. She's an amazing woman. Sometimes I don't feel like I deserve her.
Of course you do.
She makes our life amazing. She is one of the hardest working, most caring, sassy individuals I know. And I know she just cares incredibly about. It's tough to find someone that cares as much about what you care about and feels it as much as you feel, and that's how we feel about FroPro. It's like our baby. And when their highs are high, this is awesome, and we're so grateful. And the lows are lows. This is challenging, but this is awesome.
We have each other.
And we support each other, and there are days where it's just like, where we feel like nothing is going right, and it's really hard, and there's, I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, she is an absolute godsend of a human being. I was very grateful that she agreed to marry me, and spend the rest of her life with me. And we have a really nice, probably the best communication I've had with any other human being in my life. Thanks to getting sober and learning how to communicate effectively.
How long have you been married now?
Man, it'll be 2024, 9 years. We got married in 2015.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But we've been
That's
together
so
since
cool.
2010. So we've been
Nice.
together
So
coming
she
up on
was
15.
with you when you went through the low.
She was there at the rock bottom of all rock bottoms.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And now she runs the company with you?
She is the CEO. She is the boss. She is in charge. We have a great team of people that have been with us for years now. We've hired a lot of sober people that have come down here to get their life in order, and been with us for a little bit. Some have stayed. Some have moved away after they spent some time getting sober and had to go back to wherever they were living. Some have stayed down here. But we have an amazing team. We have an amazing rock star.
So do you have a factory down here in Florida?
Yep, we're right off 1200 Clintmore Road, right there off like the Rogers Circle.
Yes.
We tell anybody, drop by. Sometimes we're in the midst of production. We can't answer the door. Sometimes it's, you come in and they're, doing their morning meditation or whatever. People can pick up the orders from there. We
It really is a family.
We have a really cool family. We have a little exercise place next door that we've hosted some events at, and that I'm super grateful for, because I combined my love for fitness and wellness and on one side, and then a production facility and distribution and offices on the other. So everything's kind of connected, and really feels like a big part of this community, and we're super grateful that this community has allowed us to do what we've done, and the people that have kind of paved the way for us or gotten some things done for us we couldn't do for ourselves. We have an amazing group of friends that are professional. We have, now that I'm saying all this out loud, especially with like the, some of the recent challenges, it hits me that it's like, it's all good.
So much to be grateful for.
It's all good.
So how do people find you? And I know you're everywhere, but just tell them where to go.
So I do this. I've done this once or twice. If you're struggling or you need help or you have questions, you can reach me personally, 914-772-6343. If you want to try peanut butter snack bars, you can reach out to us on Instagram at FroPro Snacks. You can go to our website, GoFroPro or FroPro.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Mathew Williams is a pretty generic name, but if it says Boca Raton, that's me. It's super. Matt, M-A-T-T, at FroPro.com is my email. Like I said, if you have any questions about any of that or any concerns or someone needs help or you have whatever I can do to be of service, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. It's really been such a great conversation, and I'm sure people that listen will get so much from our conversation.
I
love
it.
that you just give your phone number out like that. That is really special. It shows your commitment.
If it helps, it helps.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today on the World Healing Tour podcast. Until next time, remember to take these 3 actions daily. Number 1, every day remember to have a grateful heart and connect to your gratitude. Number 2, every day remember to ground in love and compassion. First, love and compassion for yourself, and then learn to also share that love and compassion with others. And number 3, every day remember that you are not alone. This is a guided journey, and you're guided. I call it God. God, higher power, source, whatever you want to call it. Until next time, have a beautiful day, everyone. Namaste.